بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد الأمين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. We are on lesson number 11 inshallah, and to continue on with what we spoke about throughout this series. And if you guys recall, the series is called the nature of life and understanding tribulations. Okay, so I want to just quickly review and ask you guys what are some of the key topics, because it's kind of this lesson series is like a structured lesson series. We talked about certain concepts, and then today we're going to move into something new. Okay, but in the very beginning we stated that the whole purpose of taking this lesson series is that we can be amongst those who don't fall into the crime of oppressing themselves, okay, or wronging themselves. You guys recall that stuff. We reiterated many times. And also, we stated in the very beginning that part of doing so starts off by answering two important questions, which were:
who created us and why?
Who created us and why? And I'm not gonna go into all the details again. I'm just gonna briefly touch on the concepts before we move into something new. Okay, so very briefly, the one who answers these questions, they come to the conclusion that Rabbul Alameen subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah Azza wa Jal, is the one who created us, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala being Al-Khaliq, He has a message for mankind, okay? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in this message that He sends to mankind, clarifies why He created mankind, okay? And this is the meaning of ad-deen, the religion. Religion is the message of Allah, the Creator subhanahu wa ta'ala, to His creation, so they know how to navigate life, so they know their purpose of being. And if we reflect well, then we find that the truthful message is the one aligned with reason, logic, al-fitra, disposition, and reality, which is al-Islam, without a doubt. Okay? The next point, or the next stuff that we went over, is, and it's obviously like evident from the title of the lesson series, is that the person must know and be acquainted with the nature of this worldly life. Okay? The nature of this life that we're living, which we spoke about in extensive detail. Okay, we have to be aware. So I want you guys to see like these steps that we're taking. Okay, so this concept we took is we have to understand the nature of this life that we're living, because if the person doesn't understand the nature of this world, then he passes through life and it'll end without knowing the goals he was supposed to achieve. Okay, it could be like somebody, they think they're doing well, وهم يحسبون أنهم يحسنون صنعا, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says. They're going to think that they're doing well, and really they're just losing themselves. Okay, they're going to be chasing something like a mirage. And we said the person who does this is one who views this world to be a place of one who views this world to be a place of matah. The opposite. So the person who views this place, the dunya, to be a place of matah, that's the person who loses themselves, because they pass through this life without comprehending its purpose and its nature. Okay? And from the things that we highlighted, which completely debunks that idea, is that one isn't capable of fulfilling their desires in this dunya. Rather, they're only capable of fulfilling their needs only. Okay? So you're allowed to fulfill the need from a desire. Obviously Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put means into place to make that halal for us, but we can never, no matter how much you try, whether you did halal or haram, whatever you do, you'll never fulfill the desire itself. And we went into that in detail. Okay? Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. So whether, because this is very important, I just want to highlight something. So whether it's to do with shahwat al-jins, like sexual desire, somebody, no matter what they do, it'll never be fulfilled. They'll never satisfy the desire in the dunya. Whether it's the shahwat al-mal, the money. No matter how much money you earn, you see people that are the richest people in the world, they're still spending all of their time earning more money. Whether it's the shahwa of al-mansib, like position or status, all of these things, they're never ever going to be satisfied in dunya. Okay? So then we come to the conclusion that this dunya is really a place of, it's Dar al-Bala. It's a place of tribulation and trials. Okay? Dar al-Bala. It's the place of tribulation and trials. It's the place where you're to be tested, not where you're to be rewarded and to have the ultimate na'im and mata'in. Okay? And we highlighted quite extensively as well that a person in all of his conditions is being tested by both blessings and hardships. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَبَلَوْنَاهُمْ بِالْحَسَنَاتِ وَالسَّيِّئَاتِ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْجِعُونَ. Okay? So both are trials. Al-hasanat was-sayyi'at. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you, it's a test. If He withholds from you, it's a test. If He provides you, it's a test. If He blesses you, it's a test, and so on. Okay? Now let's give a little, or go into a little example here, okay? We have a very beautiful hadith, a very scary hadith, but it has a very beautiful ma'na in it. And it's going to fit right in line with what we're talking about right now. And that is, أول من تسعر بهم النار يوم القيامة. The people that the first ones that the hellfire is ignited with يوم القيامة. The first three categories of people that enter the hellfire. Who are they? الشهيد, المتبرع or المتصدق, and the Quran or the Al-Qari or Al-Alim. Okay? So these people, they're the ones, the first ones to enter hellfire, but they're known for engaging in religious activities. Okay? They're the first to be thrown into the hellfire. A man who's a scholar, a alim or a qari, okay, what does that mean? If the person is a qari or alim, it means that he bisalli. It means that he, bikhatab al-nas, he gives khutbah, he teaches the people their deen, he gives durus. If you knock on their door and ask them a question, he's going to answer it for you, okay? But in this hadith we see that that person's in hellfire. Nasallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Okay? The first to be kindled in the hellfire, before Fir'aun, before Haman, Qarun, before al-Mujrimin, that we are fully aware of. The person who was engaging in these a'mal khair, they're the first ones to be burnt in the hellfire. Okay? Why? Ar-riya. But if you actually examine the situation, okay, you see the person, they lived their life in deen. Even the shaheed, okay, he didn't press a button and made him a shaheed. Okay, the shaheed, obviously somebody they trained themselves. He physically had to train to fight fi sabilillah. Okay, he had to go and risk his life and face fear, stuff that's very scary. Everyone, no matter how much of a courageous person you are, everyone's scared of dying, everyone's scared of having pain inflicted in them. So the shaheed, or the mujahid, he sat, he trained, he fought, prepared for combat, battles, survived the battle, got injured in another one, killed in one, okay? Why is he the first one to be in the hellfire though? We'll come to the answer in a minute. Nah?
Oh, you can see the answer?
We're going to come to it. I'm just like trying to get you to think. Like I'm trying to highlight this person, these asnafa people, these categories, they are devoted in ibadat throughout their life. But they're the first ones in the hellfire, okay? Then you have a charitable man. Someone who is a mutasaddiq or a mutabarra. He gave lots of charity. Why are they? Okay, we all know the short answer is riya, because they did riya. Okay, we all know that's the short answer. Everybody knows that. Okay, now let's actually be a little bit more comprehensive. Okay, because they approach the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with the wrong attitude. Okay, they didn't understand or comprehend the true nature of the
actions.
dunya or deen. We talked about understanding the true nature of dunya before in this world, sah? These people, they didn't understand the true nature of deen. Okay? They didn't understand, even though they were fully engaged in these things. And you see those three categories is what really requires lots of effort from the person to achieve in this dunya. From the ulama, they talk about the greatest a'mal. Some of the ulama have the opinion that sadaqah is the greatest amal, and this person's a mutasaddiq. Some of the ulama, they say jihad fi sabilillah, this person's a shaheed. Some of them, the person who is a alim is the highest status, warathat al-anbiya, you know. Even though all these three categories, they're fully engaged in these amazing ibadat that the ulama declare to be from the best of a'mal that somebody can attain in this dunya. However, the problem with these categories of people and why they're the first ones to be kindled in the hellfire is because they, even though they lived the life of deen, they didn't understand the true nature of deen. Okay? أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنِ, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says. And we have in Islam a word that's called a faqih, right? What's al-fiqh?
Understand.
Al-fiqh is understanding, okay? And there we have a hadith. من يريد الله له, what's the hadith? Ahsant. Whoever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wishes khair for, He will give him understanding of the deen. Okay? What does that mean? What kind of understanding? That same understanding that leads those people to be kindled for the hellfire? No. True understanding of deen. Whoever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wishes khair for, they're granted true understanding of deen. Okay? So, the third thing, or the next thing we want to address here, after understanding the nature of life, and the nature of tribulations and all those kind of things, now we want to understand, or we want to discuss, is comprehending the true nature of deen. Okay, this is the next thing we want to go over. Because the deen is not somebody just says, you know, they khafu Allah, they khafu nar jahannam, they're scared of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the hellfire, so they're going to do some ibadat in order to be saved. That's not what true understanding or comprehension of deen is, okay? So we must understand it truly and properly. Alaykum as-salam wa rahmatullahi wa sallam. So, we're going to go into an example that will help us understand a little bit better, okay? We're going to discuss something very important here. What's going to help us understand the true nature of deen, ya shabab, is as a structure, okay, this deen, it consists of two things. What are they? Fil ilm. There's two aspects of deen. Fil ilm, what do you learn? There's two. If you divide the deen into two things, two different things you need to learn. What is it?
Learn?
Yeah.
Knowledge and action.
طلبة علم. No, fil ilm نفسه. In أحسنت. عقيدة فقه. Okay? Or in other words, أصول وفروع. أصول وفروع. Okay? Al-usul is what? Al-aqeedah. Some people that say كلمة al-aqeedah is bid'ah. Never heard that amongst the salaf. Okay, whatever you want to call it. The word aqeedah is not bid'ah. Okay, but some people that, some juhal, they say that. But whatever you want to call it. Eman. They said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the hadith, that they used to learn of Eman. You want to call it Eman, Imaniyat, aqeedah, usul, whatever. Okay? The usul is the aqeedah. And then al-furu' is what? Al-furu'. So usul means the foundation. Just for the brothers who know Arabic. Usul means the foundation, the origins. Okay? And al-furu' means what? Branches, the branches. So the fiqh is the branches, is the furu'. Okay? So we must approach deen on the basis that it is built upon these two things, fundamentals and branches. Fundamentals and details. Or whatever you want to call it, aqeedah and ahkam. Okay? But you have to give your attention and focus accordingly. Because what deserves, without a doubt, everything in deen is important, but what deserves the greater concern? The foundation. Okay? The foundation, the aqeedah, the iman. Okay? The usul deserves the greater attention. This is where the main concern should lie, okay? Now I want you guys to focus on something. How come when lots of ikhwa, they get interested in deen, lots of people bihtadu, you know, they start practicing, they start practicing Islam, you see some young shabab, they come to the deen, they're all excited. What's the first thing they really want to learn usually?
Hadith.
The fiqh. They want to learn the rulings. They want to learn this. about the salah, we want to learn about the wudu, we want to learn, do you move your finger like this, you put your hands over here, what this madhab say, what's his haq, oh this is bid'ah. We want to learn the furuh, okay? That's where most of the energy is driven towards. Okay, we want to learn about the halal and the haram. We want to learn about the tajweed, and we want to learn about some ahkam and these kind of things, okay? Which is, we're not belittling the importance of these things by any means, okay? But the reality is, the major concern amongst most shabab or people that come to Islam or start practicing the deen is these things, صح? Whereas the foundation is neglected, and the foundation is where misguidance happens. Okay, that's where dalal takes place. That's where sects of bid'ah come out from, the foundation. Okay? And this is where people end up oppressing themselves as well. Okay? And if you were to look at something, a tree, okay, chronologically, what comes first? Like, what's the first stages of that tree's development? The roots, the usul, right? Before it grows a strong, firm and sturdy trunk and then branches out, the roots are very deeply settled into the ground, okay? So, you cannot build, even if you were to make a structure, okay, for people that know construction, you cannot build a sound structure if it has a faulty foundation. Okay, it's not going to last. Okay, it's not going to exist soundly if the foundation isn't sound. Okay, and that's why the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he exerted a very, very big part of his da'wah and his efforts sallallahu alaihi wasallam to establish the usul in the hearts of the believers, of the Sahaba radiallahu anhum. Okay? For almost like 15 years, before talking to the Sahaba radiallahu anhum about ahkam shar'iyya, about the fiqh, about this and that, in Mecca, what was primarily the da'wah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Al-Tawheed, Al-Akhirah. What else? Summarize in one word. Al-Usul. The usul, the foundation. Okay? Before he gave them ahkam shar'iyya, he was talking and implementing and ingraining in their minds and their hearts, radiyallahu anhum, the usul of Islam. Okay? And then when the signs begin to appear indicating that the foundations, they had taken root in the hearts of the Sahaba radiyallahu anhum, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the ahkam, the branches started to show up. Okay? All the ayat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, يسألونك عن الأنفال, يسألونك عن الخمر والميسر, يسألونك عن اليتامى, عن المحيض. Okay, all these things, يسألونك, the Sahaba start asking all this stuff. When are all those, the majority of those ayat are what? Makkiyya or Madaniyya? Madaniyya, okay? So these questions, it shows or exemplifies that the Sahaba at this stage in time, they're ready to take on the branches. The usul is firmly planted within them. Okay? So whenever it comes down of Sharia, the response is Sami'na wa ata'na. We hear and we obey. Okay? That's why, can you think of a single instance where any Sahabi, I'm not talking about Murtad, okay, any Sahabi radiyallahu anhum, they rejected any ahkam shar'iyya, a single hukam? Do you know any Sahabi that rejected any ahkam shar'iyya? Why? Whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to send down to them, alaykum as-salam wa rahmatullah. Because whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to send down to them, they're ready to grasp onto it very tightly. That's why you see when the khamr became, what year did khamr become haram? Who knows?
The 13th year after Hijrah.
The 13th year?
Was it the third year after Hijrah?
Well, anybody know? What's the third year of Hijrah? What year of that is it in the da'wah of Rasulullah?
The third year?
No, of the da'wah.
Oh, the da'wah. 13th. No, just 10 years.
No, 13 years in Mecca.
3 years in Medina. 3 years in Medina.
16.
So imagine, I'm not saying it's the 13th year, but it's in Al-Madani period without a doubt, okay? So imagine how much Islam the Sahaba lived in out of the 23 years that Rasulullah gave da'wah in, alayhi salatu wasalam. Imagine how much of the years they lived in where khamr was still permissible. Okay? When the khamr became haram, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the ayat that it's haram, what happened? Did anybody say, oh, but is it the spirits? Is it the wine? We have to get tafsil. Is this yajuz? How much percentage? No. What happened? The Sahaba radiallahu anhum, when the ayat came down, obviously Rasulullah, he was getting the wahi from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through Jibreel, then the ayat was recited onto him, then he would recite the ayat to the Sahaba, then the Sahaba would take the ayat and go in the streets and recite it to the people. Okay, so then the Sahaba, they're going around, they're reciting these ayat that's making tahrim of al-khamr. There are some Sahaba in the bar at the time, they're chilling, and they're drinking khamr, where they spit, the person that had the khamr in his hand, he dropped it. And the person that was taking a sip, he spit it out. And he even says in the hadith that some of them, they went so far to induce vomit. And the streets of Medina were flowing with khamr. Okay? Instantly. How about the ayat of hijab? When hijab was revealed, the narration says that the women were using any part of their clothes to just cover themselves. As soon as they heard it, they didn't say, oh, is it wajib? Or is it just sunnah? Or is it what part of the face or the hands? يجوز النقاب واجب ولا مش واجب? You know? None of that. No, you don't find that. That's not the attitude of Sahaba radiallahu anhum. Okay? So, more than like 500 ahkam shar'iyya came down in the Quran over the span of that 10 years, and not a single case of those did the Sahaba have rebellion or rejection of. Not a single case. Okay? Do you think that's a coincidence? That's no coincidence, okay? No Sahabi said that this ruling doesn't suit me, or I'm not ready for it, or when I'm ready, or Allah yahdini inshallah, you know, how we have lots of the excuses today. And the reason for this is because the foundations had been already deeply planted within the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, okay? So, therefore we must understand the nature of religion. We must understand the nature of deen. Okay, we have to understand the true nature of deen. So I want you guys to focus on me. Up until now, we've talked about the true nature of dunya. Now we want to understand the true nature of deen. Okay? So, like we said before, when many Muslims become committed to deen in this day and age, they immediately start doing what? Learning the furu'. They want to learn al-fiqh. Okay? They take classes, ahkam, fiqh al-salah, fiqh al-wudu, al-zakah, al-umrah, wal-hajj, and all that. Okay? And like we said, this is excellent for people to engage in. They're very important. However, what's more important for the person to I'm not saying to completely neglect one thing, but the majority of the focus should be on, like, obviously when somebody comes to deen, they have to learn how to pray without a doubt in wudu. We're not neglecting that, so you don't learn anything, no. But their main concern should be what? Is getting their heart prepared, getting their heart ready. Ready for what? To accept anything that the Sharia tells them. Okay, getting their heart in a state that's completely submissive to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? So that when whatever they're confronted with, because you see lots of times, I've seen this with my own eyes, you guys have probably seen it too. There's some shabab, they come, they start practicing the deen, they have energy, they're always in the masjid. Then one time they ask you something, it happened to me several times. One akhi messaged me, brother, this hadith, oh, this is a problematic hadith. How can that be? Rasulullah said this. Or akhi, this ayah, what does that really mean? How could Allah say this? Okay, which shows what? It shows that their hearts are not even firm with Islam aslan. Whereas anybody who their heart has been prepared and they focus on preparing their heart to be submissive to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they'll never, this question is how can, or no way, or these kind of remarks will never ever be made by somebody whose heart has been nurtured how Rasulullah nurtured the hearts of the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, okay? Like you'll never find somebody that's debating a ruling or something or contemplating on whether it should apply to them or not, okay? So if the heart hasn't reached this point of readiness to accept the Sharia of Allah entirely and wholly and be submissive to Allah, then learning all these ahkam can be like somebody who's collecting water in a pail that has cracks in it, okay? you're gonna fill it. At one point, what's gonna happen? It can crack. Okay, why? Because the heart hasn't been prepared properly. It hasn't been given its due diligence. Okay. That's why you'll find people also who they, and you guys can relate to this as well. And we'll use examples, so you guys can actually see it. Like what we're talking about really exists, and it's a very big problem in the Ummah. How much ikhwa they have certificate in tajweed, they won Quran competition before, and they're involved in very, very apparent muharramat. I don't want to go into too much, but there's one guy. He used to lead Taraweeh. He was a young shab, He used to lead Taraweeh in one of the masajid here locally. And a few years after that, he was being chased by police for murder. He was wanted for murder, involved in drugs and stuff. What did that ijazah in the Quran that he got, what did it do for him? The tajweed that he knew and he sounded the recites like Shuraim or Sudais or something. What did that benefit him? Okay? Or you'll find somebody, they read lots of books, they read lots of fatwa, they read lots of things, they watch lots of videos, but you'll find them that they miss salah. You find them a time where, they missed the salah, they didn't pray it, Or they delayed it, they had to pray a few salawat at the end of the day together. Like, how can that, how is that happening? Why is that happening? Because the heart hasn't passed, or the person hasn't passed through the stages of, they haven't built their foundation properly. It's not sound, their foundation. Okay? The fundamentals that plant in the heart, the Eman and submission and the readiness and the fear of Allah, that person hasn't passed through it. Okay, they never went through knowing Allah and understanding His majesty subhanahu wa ta'ala, realizing the muraqabah of Allah, feeling the qaraba of Allah, al-yawm al-akhir, fearing hellfire, hoping for Jannah. They never really truly passed through those phases, okay? As a result, they're not deeply rooted in the foundations. The foundations aren't really in the person's ruh, they're not really in their heart ingrained much. So the commitment is very weak to the deen, and it's somewhat superficial, and it's very easily collapsed. It can be very easily collapsed or ruptured, okay? And that's also why you'll find lots of people, like I said, they get committed to the deen, they start practicing the deen, as we say, for 2 months, 6 months, a year, then khalas, you don't see him in the masjid anymore. What happened to him? He comes back, you see him 5 years later, he comes to Salat al-Jum'ah, his eyebrows are plucked and he's wearing necklace and I'm giving a real example, okay? Or a sister, she wears hijab for a year, then you see her and her hijab is off. Or someone, they used to pray, and now you see them, they don't pray anymore, they abandon the salah. And that's all fruits of them having a faulty foundation. Okay? So the correct order of taking on deen in your life is to build the roots very strongly and then the branches. Okay?
Is it always faulty foundation then? It can't just be someone that has got caught up in some bad habits or something like that.
But those bad habits, they caught up to the person. Why? What's the root of al-istiqamah? What's the root of al-thabat? Obviously, tawfiq Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, without a doubt. But what's the root of it? When somebody has that strong foundation, that's the root of it. Okay? When that foundation is instilled within the person, that's what is the greatest means for al-thabat al-din. Not mujarrad, the ahkam, al-fiqh, the shurut al-salah, wal-wudu, and this stuff. That's not what's going to make somebody thabit al-din, per se. What's really going to make them firm and steadfast al-din is having that strong usul within them, okay? And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أَلَمْ تَرَ كَيْفَ ضَرَبَ اللَّهُ مَثَلًا كَلِمَةً طَيِّبَةً كَشَجَرَةٍ. What's the ayah?
كشجرة طيبة
ثابت وفرها في السماء.
أحسنت. We'll continue.
تؤتي أكلها كل حين بإذن ربها ويضرب الله الأمثال للناس لعلهم يتذكرون.
أحسنت يا ريان, Allah يجزيك الخير. Do you not see how Allah presents an example? A good word is like a good tree. Its root is firm and its branches are in the sky. Okay? So, So what are the roots? What are the roots? Let's go over what are the roots that people need to know. Okay, number one is knowing Allah, knowing who your Lord, Rabbak, who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is. Okay? Knowing and understanding that Allah created you, what that means, what does that truly mean to you? Allah created you. You have this intimate understanding of that. You're a creation of Allah. Okay? Not just everyone, we say like parrots, yeah, Allah created us. We know everyone knows Allah created us. No. Okay, you live with it. You feel it. Okay? You know what it means. You're aware of it. Okay? Of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's greatness and His might. Jalla Jalalu, His names, His attributes. Okay, you live with this knowledge. And then from this knowledge emerges two things: fear and love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? You fear Allah because you know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can seize you with punishment at any moment. Allah can seize you with punishment in this dunya or in the akhirah. ذَلِكَ لِمَنْ خَافَ مَقَامِي وَخَافَ وَعِيدِ. Allah says that is for whoever fears my position and fears my warning. So the fear of Allah is part of the usul, the roots. Okay, what else? And the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is also from the roots. Okay, sometimes people, they think that everything they do has to be out of khawf of Allah or yani fear of Allah. Say khaf Allah ya akhi, don't do that, khaf Allah. And they're without a doubt 100%, but people, they're forgetting the love aspect. Some of the ulama, they say it's greater that somebody worships Allah out of their love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, but you have to have a balance between the fear and the love. Okay, not too much fear and no love, not all love and no fear. You have to have a balance between the two. But how much times have you said, okay, for example, people, they get caught up in haram. I'm not gonna, for example, someone's maftoon with smoking or looking at haram. I'm not gonna do this, ya akhi, because I want to fear Allah, ya akhi. Tell yourself, ya akhi, taqillah, fear Allah, ya akhi, fear Allah, don't you fear the hellfire? How much times have you told yourself, ya akhi, don't look at that, a'udhu billah, don't look at that, hubban lillah, don't look at that, out of your love of Allah, don't look at that. Okay? So these are all part of the roots. Okay? What else is part of the roots is al-ghayb, Eman fil ghayb, believing in the unseen. As Allah says, الَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْغَيْبِ, describing the believers. Okay. And from that is believing in Yawm al-Akhir, the Day of Judgment, believing in Jannah and Nar, believing in al-Malaika, wal-Kutub, wal-Rusul, wal-Qadr. Like the arkan of al-Iman. Okay, this is all from the usul, all from the foundation. So what's the solution, okay, for people to be firm and steadfast? Is we have to examine if have you truly built this foundation within your heart? Have you firmly established yourself with these roots? Are they ingrained and firmly embedded within you? Okay, or are you busying yourself more with the furu' and neglecting the roots? Okay, because this is going to be the solution for us. Because a person could be very precise in tajweed. You know, there's even kuffar, they know the ahkam tajweed.
Of course.
I seen this one time, there's like some kafira, some lady, she was testing people on the ahkam tajweed. She mastered ahkam tajweed. And I think she's German or something. She's kafir, doesn't even believe in the Quran. Okay? But so there's a person could be very precise in tajweed and they know ahkam as-salah and books of fiqh, but inside their heart hasn't submitted and surrendered to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It hasn't reached the true level of submission that's required of them. As a result, the person's heart, it still prefers dunya. Okay, it still prefers dunya. It still negotiates the rulings. It prioritizes convenience. How much time some ikhwa, you find brothers that are very, in the masjid all the time, from our brothers, ourselves, and they're confronted with things which to some people it looks so like, it's like the elephant in the room, looks so clear, but you see the person, they're kind of faltering in front of something, in front of a shahwa, they're preferring dunya a little bit. They're preferring convenience. Why? This is all fruits or signs that their foundations are flawed, or the foundation is not so firm. Okay? So we have to reform inside before we can decorate the outside. Because deen is not only about the deen is not only about like religious outer appearance. It's not only about the niqab or the beard. That's a very important aspect. Don't get me wrong, I'm not belittling that. But it's not only about that. Okay? You see, there's one lady, she was wearing niqab for a portion of her life, and she fled from her family, became a murtadda, kafira. Okay? What did that niqab do for her? Okay? With poor roots. So you see how Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he focused on these foundations in the Meccan period. Okay? So obviously, following the guidance, we follow the guidance of Rasulullah, his sunnah, the way that he taught the Sahaba. He focused first and foremost upon al-usul. That's what he engraved in the Sahaba during the Meccan period, okay? So Rasulullah was teaching the Sahaba radiallahu anhum all of these imaniyat, these aqa'id, or this usul, like we're saying, in the Meccan period. Naam, Habib, what's up?
You said love and fear is part of the usul, is part of the roots.
Naam.
Would raja also be?
Raja, of course. Naam. Raja means hope, yeah, of course. Okay?
But that's like a part of hub, no? Like the love of Allah.
They're all intertwined, but each thing is its own element, yani, if you will. Okay? So, Raja is hope, yeah. So, Tawheed, obviously, the Qasas al-Anbiya, the Wasf of Nar Jahannam, of the Akhirah, of Yawm al-Qiyamah, Ahwal Yawm al-Qiyamah, Na'im al-Jannah, the Azamat Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Hikmatullah fi Qadari, all these things, okay? And this is what you find in the Qisar al-Suwar, or the Suwar that's revealed in the Meccan period. You don't find Ahkam al-Wudu in the Meccan period, or Ahkam al-Salah in the Meccan period, or Ahkam al-Zakah, or the Ahkam al-Dhabh al-Udhiyah. You don't find that, okay? Or Ahkam al-Zawaj al-Talaq. That's all where? In the Madani period, okay? So we have to kind of follow the guidance or the guidelines that Rasulullah did sallallahu alaihi wasallam by focusing on or giving the higher preference to that, and simultaneously focus on the furu' as well, but give more attention and commitment to the usul. Okay. What else? Okay, so, and we see the effects. So you'll see somebody in this day and age advise somebody, Akhi, leave this. This is haram. Ya Akhi, haircut is haram. Or Ya Akhi, wearing this type of clothing is haram. Lots of ikhwa, do they say, okay, right away, سمعنا وطعنا, جزاك الله خير أخي في النصيحة. What do they say? What's your dalil, Akhi? I need to know your dalil first. Can you please tell me? Oh, but isn't there khilaf bain al-ulama on that?
Asking for dalil is not you being.
That's not the point I'm trying to get to. My point is that people, some stuff that's very well known.
Oh.
Okay, you don't need, you can ask for dalil, sure. Okay, but some stuff, like for example, about the plucking the eyebrows for the women. Okay, they're like, oh, I need to know some dalil. What's the dalil? Oh, that hadith is the mal'uni. I don't think so. They're mal'un.
Yes.
Okay. Why there's khilaf between the ulama? There's some new modern zindiq. He says that you can pluck your eyebrows, okay, for your husband and all this. So this is all a result or a fruit of the person having weak usul within themselves. They're not convinced. The root's not there. So the priority is to build the foundation.
They wear like the chains. You tell them. And
or wearing a necklace. You see a guy wearing a necklace. Akhi, Habib, this is tashabbuh bin nisa. What's your dalil, Akhi? Tell me. What's Ya Akhi, you have to grow your beard. What's your dalil, Akhi? Tell me what. Oh, but Rasulullah did it. But is it sunnah though? And you see all these hujjaj that people come up, okay? Also, if you want to raise your children properly, for all the fathers here, and inshallah future fathers bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, is you have to engrave within them, first and foremost, the usul as well. Okay? Don't be foolish and you teach your son, your daughter, that they have to make salah. You don't teach them about the usul, that what leads to that. Engrave within them, and follow the sunnah of Rasulullah, follow the sunnah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how He nazzal al-Quran subhanahu wa ta'ala, and how Rasulullah taught the Sahaba to get the best result. Because the Sahaba are the best generation. So how were the best generation produced? This way. So you want to follow that, okay? That's how you reform a community. That's how you change yourself. Okay? So if we look at the Sahaba radiallahu anhum as an example, they had very strong usul. Okay, that's why when they embraced Islam, they never turned back. You don't hear about a Sahabi radiallahu anhu who he prayed for a few months then taraka salah, or a Sahabiya, she wore hijab and she removed it. Okay, you don't hear about that. And it's not because the Sahaba radiallahu anhum are aliens or something, but no, it's due to the way that their tarbiyah was. Okay, the tarbiyah that they received from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which was foundational. Rasulullah focused on the foundations first, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He didn't first teach them, this is how you stand in salah, this is how you read the Quran, this is how you make business. Okay? The first things that you teach kids in the tarbiyah is Allah is watching you. We're going to come a time where you're going to be in the grave. The hellfire is something real. There's going to be a time where your amal is placed in the scale that's going to be weighed, your deeds. Okay, one day you're going to stand before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One day the malaika are going to sit you up in the grave and they're going to ask you these questions. And this is what builds strong hearts. Okay, this is why the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, they're very moved by the Quran. That's why they used to weep when they hear the Quran. Okay. Let me see. Okay. Okay, so one thing which is a fault that we have in the da'wah today is that lots of people get taught today in da'wah, they're given lists of do's and don'ts. Akhi, don't do this, akhi, this is haram. Sometimes I see some brothers, there's one guy, he just Aslam, he just embraced Islam. And you see akh going up to him, he's going to tell him every don't in the book that he sees on the person. You're going to scare them away. You have to build them up, you have to build the core, the foundation first, and all that stuff will come naturally, okay? Otherwise, people, they become confused or disheartened, or they feel overwhelmed from the Islam, or they feel disconnected, okay? And as a result, a very, very tangible example, what you see, okay, when the Muslim isn't built, if you will, properly, how much Muslimin that they know the furu', they have ilm about the furu', but they don't practice it. How much? How much Muslimin they know salah is fard, they don't pray. Muslimin. Okay, how much Muslimas, they know hijab is fard, but they don't wear hijab. They know that riba is haram, but they bought a house on a mortgage. They know that this and they know that they know, and they're not doing any of it. Why? Because this is the result of knowing the furu' without having the usul. This is what having the branches without having the foundation. Okay? So it shows that the foundation is weak or missing. Okay? They know halal and haram, but they're not practicing it. They fall into sins repeatedly. Okay. So if a person, they're taught this usul, they have this belief within themselves, their heart has been touched by the fear and the hope and the love of Allah, and the sidq wal ikhlas is within them, then their branches will grow very strong. What happens to a tree when its foundation is weak? What happens to the branches? They wither away. The tree dies. Okay? Some trees, if the roots is weak, they don't get nutrients. What happens to the tree trunk? It's rotting from inside. From outside it looks fine, but it's really rotting from inside. So it comes to a point where even though it looks big and strong, it can collapse any second. Okay? The same is the example here that we're given. So practical steps for this heart-focused da'wah that we're speaking on is, Rasulullah said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, "Ballighu anni walau ayah," convey from me even if it's one verse. Yani start with simple, clear ayat that touch the heart. Okay? And use these ayat to build the foundation of Tawheed, the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Like we said before, use the Qasas al-Anbiya, use the Seerah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. You know, go into the seriousness of the Akhirah. You know, there's many beautiful books written, or there's even audio series you can listen to about the Akhirah. Anwar al-Awlaki rahimahullah has very, very nice one. On the Akhirah, naam. Okay? You see or even the Qasas al-Anbiya, which Shaykh Anwar al-Awlaki rahimahullah, he also has a very nice series on Qasas al-Anbiya as well. But you see Qissa of Nuh alayhi salam, the people rejected his message. Qissa of Ibrahim alayhi salam, his trust in Allah, his tawakkul ala Allah. You know, you hear about the ahwal yawm al-qiyamah, you know, the day of judgment and all that. And another thing is muhasabat al-nafs. What's that? Self-reflection, or holding oneself accountable. This is also something that's extremely important in contributing to building a strong foundation within you. Is having muhasabat al-nafs. You're always holding yourself to account and remembering who created you, remembering where you're headed to, that one day you're going to be in the grave, remembering the reality that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is watching you, encompasses you in everything. Another thing is that contributes to this, these are just some practical pointers here. Sorry. Another thing is building love for Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, the man, the best man to live, the one who conveyed this whole deen to us. Okay, learn about him. How can you follow his sunnah? How can you be like him? Because we should all aspire to be like him, right? How could you aspire to be like him? You don't know anything about him. You don't know anything about his life. Okay, you learn about him. Learn about how he was merciful to the people, how he was how his techniques in da'wah, how he was the best guide, and he was the most fearful of Allah. Okay? When the heart loves Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it listens to his teachings and it allows the person to follow his example eagerly. You take him as a true role model when you know him. Okay? Another thing is being patient. So we learned about sabr earlier on in this dawrah here. Okay? Having sabr is extremely important because do hearts normally change overnight? No, it takes time. So have sabr. Have sabr. Know that patience is a virtue. And it truly is. Having sabr. Having sabr in leaving off what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made haram upon you. Through knowing everything that we took up until now. I don't want to repeat everything. Having sabr in doing the ta'ah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? All this stuff requires sabr. And that's why you see in Rasulullah's da'wah, he was very gentle in the way that he dealt with people. Rasulullah wasn't very pushy. Rasulullah was not very harsh. He had a very smooth, gentle way of giving da'wah. Okay? Another thing is if the people were, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, if you were very harsh, then the people around you would have dispersed. Okay? And this is a really important thing because sometimes people, when they're giving da'wah, they have this kind of kibr way of looking at people, and it's tanfir. You know, Rasulullah says, "Bashiru wa la tunaffiru, yassiru wa la tu'assiru," or kama qala alayhi salam. Okay, you're trying to invite to the path of Allah. You don't want to be that grumpy person that's just yelling and screaming and don't. Okay, this doesn't sit well with people. That's why Rasulullah didn't do it himself. That's why he told us not to do it. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay. You want to encourage people. You want to welcome them to Islam. You want to welcome them to practicing, okay? And another point to building a strong foundation is to combine your knowledge with practice, okay? See the Eman translate into daily actions, step by step. This is the sunnah of how the Sahaba learned the Quran. You know, not like how we do today. We learn so much ma'lumat and you implement 0.5% of it. No, learn and implement, step by step. You become like a walking sharia within yourself, okay? When people only focus on al-furu', the ahkam, without having their roots planted firmly within their hearts, some negative outcomes of that is that they can become rigid. Okay? They can become judgmental. They can become hypocritical. They can despair. What do I mean by that? Sometimes people just think that it's like a robotic, mechanical thing that you're doing. The salah is something robotical. It's a robotic or mechanical thing that you're doing. Become rigid. There's no sweetness to it. Or you become judgmental. You see, you pray, even though your salah is like, it's this robotic salah, you pray, but you see someone else that doesn't pray, so you become, you start making judgments. Oh, you're better than this person, and you kind of view yourself you're something, even though you never really attained much yourself. You become hypocritical. Okay? All of this can be because the foundation is lacking sincerity and love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? And when people, they follow rules, and when people know these furuh, okay, and they follow it out of habit, how much people they grew up their whole lives, they learn about this ahkam, they follow it out of habit. That's what their family taught them, that's what their people do, so they do it. Or some people, they learned it, so out of fear for their parents or their teachers, they do it. Okay? Not out of true submission to Allah. Okay? Some people, as a result, they can have physically, their salah can look like it's perfect physically, but on the inside, there's all what's happening on the inside of them has all been neglected. How much people they pray without any khushu' in their salah? How much people they pray without any real connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? How much people they pray how much people they pray and they walk away from their salah the same person they entered? Nothing changed. That salah had no effect on them, didn't impact them, did not change them. Okay? What does that lead to? When the ummah is built to people like this, what do you expect of that? Because you always want to, you want to diagnose the ummah, right? What does that lead to when you have an ummah of these type of people? You're going to have a weak ummah, divided, vulnerable ummah, like we see today. Okay? It's like a tree with no roots, easily shaken and uprooted. And without pure intention as well, outward actions are worthless. Okay? Without pure intentions, without the right intention, you can do as much actions as you want, they're worthless. You can, if you neglect the foundation of al-Eman and the love of Allah and the fear of Allah and the sidq wal ikhlas lillah, all of these salah and fasting and zakah, it's all worthless. You don't have any, you're missing those aspects of it. It becomes hollow. That's why you see, like in the hadith we took in the beginning, those 3 people that enter the hellfire, they're doing all these amazing outward actions while the pure intention is missing. That sidq wal ikhlas is missing. So all of that a'mal that is deemed to be the greatest a'mal in Islam, it didn't do anything, it didn't raise them. Bil'aks, it was the means for them to enter hellfire. Why? Because they were hollow on the inside. It was not accompanied by the imaniyat or al-aqidah or the firm belief, the usul within the person. Okay? So we have to prioritize building this iman within us and this sidq, this ikhlas within us. Okay? Only then can the ahkam, the furuh, be followed with a true happiness and contentment and joy and istiqamah and steadfastness. Okay? Okay. Naam ya akhi.
Is repenting part of having the foundation?
Of course. A heart that's munib, a heart that's tawwab, you're going always back to Allah, definitely, without a doubt. Okay, what else do we have here? Sorry, some of it I'm repeating, I know, but inshallah is driving the point home. Okay, this is a good thing too here. We'll have to go over this, inshallah. We'll conclude very soon. We have about 10 minutes left until the adhan. So, clarifying some common misunderstandings about al-ahkam through the usul. Okay, so many misunderstandings arise today about the ahkam in Islam because people, they study the branches without understanding the roots. Okay, so people, they begin to argue about what is halal, what's haram, often without knowing why. They just know the ahkam, like standing alone without knowing why. So they become a little bit rigid or confused about the small details and like the differences of opinion. Some people could reject rulings because they think they're too harsh or it's just not suitable for them. Others can ignore rulings altogether because they have weak iman. But when you understand the foundations, you understand the purpose of the sharia, the wisdom behind the rulings, then these misunderstandings will disappear. So we know that in the sharia we took before, the maqasid of sharia is حفظ الدين, حفظ النفس, حفظ العقل, حفظ النسل, حفظ المال. Okay? So we know that these are the maqasid of the sharia. So when you see the rulings as a means to these higher goals, you understand their mercy and wisdom in the sharia. Okay? So when you see the tahrim al-khamr, you know it's just not mujarrad Allah haram al-khamr, but you know it's a protection of the person's deen, of the person's intellect, it's protection of society. Okay, when you see in Ramadan to fast Ramadan, some people they think, oh, just fasting, just simply leaving food and drink. They completely neglect the whole purpose of it is to build self-discipline and spiritual growth. Okay, Salah, people they think it's just a ritual, they have to pray to be a Muslim. But they forget that the purpose, the maqsad of the Salah is to connect them, the sila with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? You see some people, for example, they study the furu' so much, they come Salat al-Jum'ah, they know all the sunnah al-Jum'ah. You have to make ghusl, you have to brush your teeth, you have to apply perfume. You come to the masjid, you come early to the salah and all this kind of stuff. And they're focusing so much on this. You ask them, what was the khutbah about? I forgot, I don't know. But all of this stuff, these furu', are you focused on for what? It's fulfilling the purpose, the maqsad of what? The khutbah itself, the benefit. You're coming in this way. So this beautiful way to take the fruit of the khutbah. But where was all the dedication? It was only in those furu' without taking the essence of it, okay? So when the heart knows and accepts these foundations, the rulings become easier to obey and their wisdom is very evident. And this is just a sign, a side thing too, is that all the ahkam for sharia all has a illah to it. All the ahkam is mu'allala, all has illah, it all has reasoning for it. Okay? Some madhahib, namely al-Zahiriyya, they say that the ahkam shari'iyya, it's simply for you just to obey. The only illah from the ahkam shari'iyya, unless we know it's stated, is just for your submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Without a doubt that is true, but each specific hukm has its specific ilal as well. Okay? What else here? Okay. So inshallah we'll be concluding here in a minute or two, inshallah ta'ala. So I hope we drove the point home today. As you want to understand, shabab, the point, or want to understand the true nature of deen, is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't want Muslims to be just a robotic Muslim, or if you will, a zombie Muslim, where you on the outside it's Islam, but on the inside it's mayyit. Okay? The inside, the person's completely farigh min iman. There's none of these concepts, hubb Allah wa makhafat Allah and al-raja, all this kind of stuff, al-ikhlas wa sidq, al-yaqeen, this is all absent inside, and the person, they just have a beard and they have short pants and they just come to the masjid and they just hear the tilawah, and that's not the type of Muslim Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to build. Okay? That's not the type of Muslim Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to build. The type of Muslim Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to be is the one who encompasses the true nature of deen, which is this strong foundation within the Muslim. Okay? Because when that strong foundation is within the Muslim, then they'll never fall prey to their, everyone makes mistakes and sins, but they will not be overtaken by their shahawat when the foundation is strong. They will never be overtaken by shubuhat when their foundation is strong. They will never falter or leave al-istiqamah or thabat when the foundation is really strong and focused on and given priority. The Muslim who has a strong foundation will never prioritize their convenience or prioritize dunya or get caught up or deceived by dunya. Because they have that essence of Islam, they have that true nature of Islam within the person that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala truly requires of us. So we want to have real deen, yani. Because many of us, we know, but we don't commit. Some of us, we know how to sweet talk ourselves into acknowledging, but we're still without commitment. Other people, they just completely neglect. We don't want to be like that. You want to actually, you want the inside, that strong foundation to be so firm that, like we said, any hukum, whatever Sharia needs, it requires of you, it's not debatable. It's not it's not shaky at all. Okay. Anyhow, I think it's pretty straightforward. Anybody have any questions or anything on anything we spoke about today? Ibrahim, you have any questions? Are you sure you're good?
Is that the completion of the series? Or?
No, we will have one more halaqah, inshallah. We'll complete the series with that. Okay? Then that's it, inshallah.
Then part 2.
Then part 2, maybe, inshallah. We'll see. If we're going to take it.
Inshallah.
Okay, so I hope we drove it home. You guys got the point of today, sah? Is that you want to focus on, you want to be, you want to achieve true Islam, not fake Islam. Unfortunately, many of us, we have fake Islam. Okay, we want to have this true submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is only built off of a true, strong foundation in Islam. Okay? Jazakumullahu khairan, wa barakallahu feekum. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد والحمد لله رب العالمين وإياكم.
There's still going to be a Thursday